So, because we don't have much time, I'm going to start now. So, welcome everyone on my behalf. My name is Haapamäki and I am representing a company called Monad. My presentation is about new hit thing in web development called ReasonML and ReasonReact. And but before going in, very brief advertisement about Monad. We're a small company established last autumn, like a get-together of freelancer programmers. I'm one of the three co-founders of the company. Even though we're a young company, we have over doubled our staff in small time, and now there are 7 of us. And we're offering top-level software development services and consulting. Mainly web and system integration related development, but we also have quite much embedded system related experience. And we're also offering AI and machine learning and software procurement related consulting. And always keen to get acquainted to software development professionals with high standards and craftsmanship mentality. So if you recognize yourself as a software development craftsman or woman, be in contact. So, but now to the beef of the presentation. What is ReasonML? ReasonML, or nowadays just Reason, is not a new language. It's just a new syntax and tool chain to OCaml. Well, what then is OCaml? It's a 20 years old programming language invented by some French guy. Nevertheless, it's a great language, which is based on Caml, which is even older, over 30 years old programming language. Also invented by some French guy. And OCaml is a multi-paradigm programming language with emphasis on expressiveness and safety. And because it emphasizes safety, it's mainly used in functional manner. And OCaml has advanced type system that helps to catch your mistakes without getting in your way. And why then this new syntax? Well, it was created by Facebook and it's supposed to attract more JS developers to start to use this statically typed, mainly functional language in web development. And Reason is also includes support for JSX, and that's why it's also very good friends with the React.js library. In Reason world, the React.js is called ReasonReact, which is basically bindings to the React.js library and some utilities. Okay, well, browsers, of course, they cannot execute Reason or OCaml, so how do we get our code to run in the browser? For that, we use BuckleScript, which you can see on the lower right corner. And actually, there are 2 steps, but the key to get your OCaml or Reason to run in browser is the BuckleScript. BuckleScript is made by Bloomberg, and it's one of the backend compilers for OCaml. So the compilation progress basically works so that first your Reason code is converted to this OCaml abstract syntax tree presentation using REFMT, which is basically a Reason formatter, which also does code formatting, but let's not go into that. And then when you have the abstract syntax tree, then we use the BuckleScript to compile JavaScript. As you can see from the picture, you can also compile OCaml AST natively to different platforms, but we're now concentrating on JavaScript, so you can study more about that yourself. So, why all this Reason, React, Reason, OCaml, BuckleScript? There's a lot of hassle. I'm not going to go so deep into this because there are better presentations about this in YouTube and other medias. But here are a few main points. The BuckleScript compiles Reason very fast to JS. According to some people, 10 times faster than TypeScript is compiling. And PagoScript creates very small bundles with great performance, according to Facebook Messenger development team. And this is the main thing why I liked the Reason, and because it's very safe, because it has a complete type system. The types have 100% coverage. Every line of the code has basically some sort of type. Well, if you have variables and such. And like in Kotlin, you have a type inference, so you don't need to write those manually everywhere. The types can be deduced by the compiler. And it's a 100% sound type system. So it means that once it compiles, the types are guaranteed to be accurate. And Reason is pure, at least almost pure, immutable and functional, but still in special cases allowing mutation and objects for familiarity and interop with existing JS libraries. But as I said, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go any deeper into what is ReasonML, its history, and why should I use it. But in the end, I'm going to leave you a few links if you want to know more. But then, so how should I start using Reason and Reason React? Well, you have a couple of options. Just head to the official pages and study, or if you just want to dive in and see some code and get your code up and running, just get Reason scripts and create your first template application. And it's as easy as these 4 lines over here. But yeah, of course you need npm installed and yarn installed globally. And by the way, probably now it would be a nice thing to mention that running the Reason toolchain in Windows isn't that straightforward. You need a VSL environment and so on, but let's not go into that. Get yourself a Linux or Mac and start doing. So, of course, it's nice to have a good editor to read and write your Reason code. I haven't tested any other than VS Code with ReasonML plugin, and that seems to be the recommended solution by the community. But of course, the template application is quite simple, and so what to do when template application is not enough? Where do I get some more real-life situation examples? And well, then you head to GitHub and clone Monad's ReasonML quad example. The purpose of this project was, of course, to study ReasonML and to implement simple and lean architecture for common quad functionality using this very simple client entity. And also, we were creating a little bit these bindings to the Blueprint.js UI library. So let's see if I can get a little bit demonstration. Where is the? So basically, let's put it like that. So this is the CRUD example, very simple, but still there's quite a lot of things that we have, like a development backend also in this project, and it is sending REST calls to list the entities, to create the entities. You can edit, add, and delete. Let's hope I still have some things up and running. It seems to work. We can delete and we can add stuff. So quite simple. And there is actual also error handling, and we get pop-ups if we have errors and stuff. So like how you would do it in real life. But then I'm going to show you a little bit code. So basically, I hope everyone knows at least a little bit React, because then if you don't know React, then this is pretty hard. But yes. So basically, this is a very very simple Reason React component, stateless component, and if you are familiar with React, you can probably recognize the render function at least. But let's go line by line at what happens in the code. The first line, we are opening utils module, which is our own file over here. Every file itself is a module, and that's one of the downsides, that you cannot have same file name in your project, at least at the moment. So that's a little bit downside at the moment. But anyways, we are opening the utils, which basically means that we are opening the utils module definition in this module scope, so that we don't need to prevent the utils everywhere where we use stuff from the utils. Basically, here we have this textl function that we are calling from the utils, and if I remove this, then we get error. But next, then we are creating this component template by calling from the Reason React module this that we want to make stateless component, and we give this home string as a parameter. This string being passed is for debugging purposes only. It's basically React.js's display name. And what happens next? Then we are spreading the component. Well, no, let's not go there yet. We are defining the make function, which has children as a parameter. The make function is called by the Reason React.jsx preprocessor, and make requires you to return component record. And here we are returning basically the component record. We are spreading this component template, and from there we are overriding render function. By the way, about this parameter, the make function always is giving the children as a parameter, and here we are just using the underscore in front of the children because the compiler always wants that we use all of our parameters, so it gives us a warning. But if we use underscore here, then it tells to the compiler that, hey, do not give warnings about this one, I know that I'm not using it. And so basically this is very simple component. We are using all the default stuff that comes from the component template, and we are just rendering the overriding the render function. And what the render function does, it just returns the this Reason React element, and all the components in Reason React.jsx need to be typed these React elements. That's why we are using the opened utils module function textl here. What this basically does, it is just a shorthand for Reason React string to element. So we are not allowed to just write home here, it needs to be this React element, and same goes here. But yeah, this is very simple example, and let's look at what examples app module or app component. And this is a stateful component. It has a state, and it's called basically a reducer component. You who are familiar with Redux know how these reducers work, but let's go through line by line what happens here. Here we are again opening the utils, and here we are calling the require CSS. And yes, where does it go? Implementation is in the utils, and what it really does is it's this one line. And it looks a little bit weird, but here we are actually using the reasons or the buckle scripts JS interop utils, and what it means that we are creating type-safe binding to require function, which is defined here, and to be exact function provided, require function provided by the CSS loader npm package. Basically, this line tells to the compiler that we want to bind to an external value function. This is the keyword for that, and we want to bind to function called require, which is here, and which takes string as a parameter and returns unit. So string as a parameter and returns unit, and this unit is basically void or no return value. And we want our function to be called require CSS. There are also a lot of different types of interop utils like this PS module and a lot of others. And in the beginning it's a little bit cryptic, but once you get acquainted, those are not too bad. And next one, we have this require asset URI, which is basically the same as this require CSS, but here we are returning string, and we can use that value. And next one, we have this type state, where we define this record type, which has main content field typed recent React element. And state is used later by the recent React to get state structure of this specific component. And next one, we define action variant, which has only one constructor, also called tagged. And the constructor is called main content changed, and it has a parameter called recent React element. And well, this is a variant type, and I'm gonna show you. Whoop. So I still have, yes. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about this variant type, because it's a very powerful tool in these ML type languages. Here is an example from the ReasonML official pages, in the front page, that we are defining type school person, which is variant, and it has three different constructors or tags. It has teacher, director, and student, which has a parameter type string. And how we then use this variant, for example, this way, we create a function, and inside that function we are using switch statement, which this stranger is given. We don't need to type this type of the stranger because of the type inference. But here, when we put the stranger to the switch, then we need to handle all the variant cases possible for that variant, or otherwise we get a compiler error. And here this function then, if the stranger is defined as a teacher, we return hey professor. If it's a director, we return hello director. And if it's a student with specific name, Richard, it returns still here Ricky. And we need to handle every cases. If we have this kind of a string here, we need to handle this that any other string also. And if it's any other string than Richard, then we return this hey, any other name. This is concatenation here. And in Reason, basically, well, this doesn't even have the parentheses, but because this is basically one-liner, we are always returning the last line from the function call. And here the switch statement returns the selected variant case. So basically this always returns string, this function. So now when we know a little bit more about the variants, now we understand a little bit more the action. But here we only have one construction in this variant, so it's quite simple. And to understand this action, you can see it a little bit later on, but these action constructors define the different operation that can be done to the component. And the component state changes only through the actions. So basically the reducer of the component receives these actions and changes the state accordingly to the action and its constructor parameter. And so this is, if you're familiar with Redux, this is very familiar for you. So basically all of these stateless components are small Redux reducer components in themselves. Okay, then let's go further in the code, and then we have the same kind of code that we had earlier. Now we are just using the reducer component function to make our component template. We have again the make function, and we are again spreading the component template, but now we are also overriding a little bit more stuff. We are overriding the initial state, where we have a function that returns a record which basically should be like the state. So we have a main content field, and we get from our router module the initial page, which basically returns the React element. And then we are overriding the render. Here we have some of this blueprint stuff. So it is basically the navbar from the blueprint, not so special. But then we have the application content, everything under the navbar. And there we are just referring to the record itself that we get as a parameter, and its state, and to the field main content. And we can put it straight away here because the because the JSX always needs the recent React element, and our main content is recent React element. So then we are overriding next the reducer, and this is basically the heart of the heart of these stateful components. And here we get the action as a parameter and also the state. We don't use the state here to anything because we are always creating the state again, because the state is very simple. But actually here, if you have a lot of different action variants, then it's very nice thing that if you add new action here that you want to do to your component, you get immediately a compiler warning that, hey, in this switch you need to handle this this variant type, variant constructor over here. And from the reducer you must always return a state, and from the, if you have more actions you need to return the state of the component. And basically here we are calling the recent React update which then updates the state for this component. And then the last one that we override is the subscriptions. This is quite a new thing. This came just like a few weeks ago to the recent React, but it's basically used to register different services in the beginning and unregister them in the end of the component lifecycle. And here in the register we call router init, and we are giving a callback as a function to the router init, and when we are in the unregistered part we are calling router destroy. Basically we don't have time to go to the insides of the router, but what it basically does, whenever the route or the URL changes, it calls this callback that we are given, and it gives element that it is supposed to find in that URL. And then it calls this function with the element, and then we are calling this self.send, which is basically same thing as we would call self.reducer, then this action, and then we would give the current state to it. So it's just about shorthand for calling the reducer with specific action. So every time every time the route changes, callback is called, which causes the reducer to be called. And when the reducer is called, then it's always the same action, and we call the recent React update. And of course, if you know a little bit about React, when the state is updated, after that we always call render, and then we have new main content here, new state and new main content. So basically it is just like now we have a new content, and now we have a new content if we go here. But yes, that is basically, I'm not quite sure, I have a couple of minutes time, but yeah, I'm gonna leave you with a few links about Reason, which you should probably visit if you are interested. Of course, the official Reason and Reason React and BubbleScript pages have the most up-to-date information about everything. Those you need to check out definitely. And then there was this guy called Axel Rausmeyer, Dr. Axel Rausmeyer, and he has this very nice blog, and there's a lot of posts about ReasonML. And one of the best presentations about ReasonML history, I didn't go very deep into the history and why should I use this and blah blah blah. But this Marshall Cutt's Pragmatist's Guide to ReasonML is a really good one. So it's a talk recorded from React Day Berlin 2017, and it's available in YouTube. And in Mona's blog there is one post about ReasonML, and there should be more in the future if I have time. And when you start to use ReasonML and Reason React, it's kind of overwhelming. You can find, if you are looking year-old examples, they have a different syntax than nowadays. So you will probably have problems with the syntax in the beginning. So to get online help, join the ReasonML Discord channel. There are a lot of helpful fellows over there, so you can ask almost about everything about ReasonML. And yeah, that's about it. Questions?
If you have questions, then I can pass you the mic. Any questions?
Don't ask anything hard.
Thanks for the presentation. Just wondering, have you any real project with ReasonML?
Well, this was a real project.
Anything?
No, I haven't. I just got acquainted to the ReasonML like 2 months ago, and yeah, it is very promising. It is very promising. But if I would recommend that would you use it in a real project? If you would be starting something from the scratch, then it would be a very viable option, technology to choose. But if you have a lot of interoperability with different libraries, yeah, you can do those bindings, but it's hard to do those bindings, and especially keep those bindings up to date if your library changes. So, but yeah, no, I haven't done.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
Did you say that Facebook Messenger team uses ReasonML?
Yes, I think it was something about that 60% of the code base of Facebook Messenger is now ReasonML, and they've like reduced their bug amount from thousands per year to under 100 per year or something like that. I don't know how viable this information is, but yeah, it's a good sales pitch at least.